Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be making one of my wife's favorite recipes. This is Fisherman stew. It's a curry dish that I sometimes make. And it uses a whole bunch of different ingredients, but really you can use kind of whatever you have at home. So for the base of it, we've got some carrots, celery, mushrooms, green onions, a little bit of red pepper, some spinach, a little bit of cucumber here. I'm not sure how I'm going to use that yet. Just odds and ends. And then as for like the seasonings, I've got a whole bunch. I'll get into that in a minute. For the seafood though, here we've got just a frozen basa portion and some little frozen shrimps here. And these were $2 each, these packs. This little pack of fish and that little pack of shrimp. $2 each at No Frills. So a really easy buy and just kind of common sense for me to make that dish tonight when I knew I had that available. As for some of the other seasonings, we're going to use some green onion, some lemongrass that I got at No Frills as well, some little red Thai chilies, ginger, garlic, some lime. Here I have mango. This was also on sale, $1, and it's still quite firm. It's not quite ripe, and that's actually perfect for a dish like this. Unripe mango is a common seasoning used in dishes like this. We have some whole spices here, some black pepper, cinnamon, star anise, a little bit of clove, and then some green cardamom. And then in here, we have some coriander, red chili powder, cumin, turmeric, and salt. And all of these are going to come together to create a really nice fish curry paste that we're going to coat our fish in and cook it in. And that's going to contribute to the broth as well. Now, some of you might be saying, you know, that sounds great, chef, but I don't have all that. I don't have all these dry spices. I don't happen to have a mango or a lime or some lemongrass or any of these dry spices. Well, that's what this here is right here. And you know what? You can pick this up. You can pick this up just at any of the little markets in town even. And this is just a fish curry masala. And if you go to the back and actually look at the ingredients, what you're going to find is all the ingredients that it uses are basically what I've already got laid out here. So, you know, things like the unripe mango and lemongrass and star anise and cardamom and all the rest. So if you don't have all those spices, go ahead and get one of these kind of prefab spice kits. I find they're terrific, and sometimes when I don't feel like, you know, roasting a whole bunch of whole spices, I just go ahead and use these anyway. So that's always an option. But today I think we're gonna skip this and we're gonna try to make our own blend using the spices and ingredients that we have and see if it maybe compares to the flavor that you'd get out of something like that. Okay, first thing we're going to do to start making our curry paste is we're going to take a little bit of coconut oil. And just a hint of mustard oil. I didn't have any dry mustard. I could have used some whole black mustard, but I think this will work just as well today. Mustard was one of the spices found in that fish curry blend, so I figured we'd find a way to get some of that flavor in there. And then we're just going to take this cardamom, star anise, cinnamon, clove, and black pepper. And we're going to put it right in there, and we're just going to gently heat this. I don't actually want to use any of those whole spices, and they're going to be rough. If I try to grind all those up, I think they're going to be very grainy. So we're just going to try to extract some of the flavor out of them into the oil by leaving it on very nice low heat for a while. And then we're going to take that oil and crush that with our ginger, garlic, chilies, and other powders to make our curry paste. So we'll just put this on low heat and then we can get started with the next step. Alright, so we've got a little knob of ginger here and 3 little cloves of garlic and 2 chilies. I think for now I'm just going to use the one. So we'll start by just sort of roughly peeling off the edges, the skins of the ginger here. You can use a potato peeler for this if you want. This is going to be just as easy for me today. Perfect. Okay. And then for the garlic, we're just going to cut off the ends, give it a little press, and they should slip right out of their wrapper there. There, just like that. And one more. Okay, and then for our chili, I'm actually going to take the end off, and I'm going to try to split this down the middle. Open it up, and I want to de-seed this. I want to take those seeds out. I think they're going to be a little bit harsh for our purposes. So you can just take the tip of your knife, scrape those guys out, right like that. Good idea to wear gloves while you're doing this. I'd kind of almost recommend that. Either that or really wash your hands when you're done, though I suppose nowadays everyone's pretty used to washing their hands 50 million times a day. All right, chunk of ginger, a little bit of garlic, and some red chili, so we'll just chop that up. Just kind of rough chop. There. Good enough. And then we'll get all that into our little grinder here, to our mortar. And then we're going to sprinkle in some rock salt. And that rock salt is going to kind of help grind up everything. There. And just kind of smush, start working this. All the juices are going to kind of come out, and that's great. We're going to still add some oil to this and some dry spices, so this is going to be a bit of a process. So I'm just going to work this for about a minute and a half, and we'll see where we're at, and we can move on to the next step. So we've got the start of our paste here. Here's the oil that's been kind of simmering away with our dry spices, and it's gotten quite fragrant. I only let it go for about 4 minutes. That's good enough. That's going to get all the essence out of it that I want. If I left it too long, the flavor would get too dark, and it wouldn't be really what we're looking for anymore. So although I'm probably not extracting all the flavor I could from these dry spices, I'm getting the kind of light buoyancy of those flavors, and that's enough for us. Okay, gonna hit that with a little bit of lime juice as well. Just like a quarter of our lime here. And it's quite liquidy in there now. And now we can start adding in some of our dry spices. So we need like a half teaspoon of our coriander, half teaspoon of our, this is just a sweet paprika. Okay, maybe a quarter teaspoon of cumin, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of our turmeric powder. There. And then if you wanted to, of course, you could be just using this pre-made fish masala. We're going to try to do it on our own today. All right, and then we'll start working that in. Now, it's still a little thin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of our fresh cilantro to this. Go. So we finished our curry paste. You can get a good look at it here. and I tasted it, and there's so much going on in here. It's salty, it's sour, it's got a whole bunch of different complex flavors in it, and it's I think it's going to do the trick perfectly. So we're going to thaw our fish and our shrimp. Just kind of put them in a Ziploc bag and have some cold water run over them until it feels like it's kind of thawed all the way through. And then we're going to take our curry paste and just gently rub down our shrimp and our fish. And then we are going to kind of lightly sear them in a pan. And then we're going to prepare our vegetables, our mango, and the rest of our ingredients. And we'll start sort of putting it all together in the soup pot and tasting as we go, and we'll see if there's any adjustments that we need to make. All right, here we are with all our veggies cut up. Sorry if the video cut out there. The phone ran out of space and I had to load it all onto the computer. Just to recap, we've got our mushrooms, cucumber, carrots, green onion, celery, and some red pepper. And you might ask why no potato or starchies. Reason being, we're probably going to serve this fisherman stew with some rice. That's why. So that's where we'll get our starch from. So I want to kind of just load it up with as many fresh veg as possible. Next up, we're going to tackle the mango. Now I know this is, some people look at a mango and they just have no idea. Quite frankly, I've tried all the different ways that they say to peel a mango. And I don't know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Seems to depend in large part on how ripe it is, which method works the best. For example, this mango's really firm, so if I tried to do that method where you kind of slice it off with the peel on and then fold, like cross hatch it, then fold it up and slice the little nubbins off, I'm not sure how well that would work on this mango here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm gonna try to peel this, and we're going to see what happens. So this is just a fun part of the video where you get to watch me fight with an unripe mango. Oh, okay. Straightforward so far. It's a little green under the edge. That's perfect. Again, this is going to be a bit sour. It's going to have some green characters to it, to the flavor, and that's actually kind of what we want for our stew. We're not looking for something that's, you know, super fall apart juicy and just overly sweet. That's not really what we want. Okay, well, that seemed painless. Next part's the hard part, though. That's where we try to figure out how much of this to cut off and how to do it. All right. So I can see there's still these bits that are a little bit green that were pretty close to the skin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of trim off a bit of that. I'm going to taste it. Pretty unripe. Okay, but it's not bitter, so I think we're probably good. So I'll just kind of identify the lengthwise on this, and then just cut right through, and all right, that seems to have been successful. Let's try to go on the other side now. Whew, so far so good. We'll worry about this problem later. For now, this unripe mango here, we're going to cube it, and we're almost treating this like another vegetable that's going in, and it's not, because it's not that ripe mango, it's not just going to fall apart into juice. It's almost, we're almost treating it like a starch vegetable, like a turnip or something. Don't have anywhere to put that. Just put it in here. There we go. All right. Well, I don't know what to do with this thing. It still seems like there's lots of mango on this mango. Just going to carefully cut around. Oop, found the seed. You know what? I'm just going to gnaw on this. Good enough. I wouldn't say the mango defeated me, but, you know, I didn't exactly prove myself adept. No big deal. All right, whew, made it through that intact. We have most of our ingredients ready. My fish is now thawed. Beautiful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and lay it gently on some paper towel. And I really want to absorb as much moisture as I can. This is a pretty delicate fish, and I don't want it falling apart when we cook it. So it's important to make sure that it's not too wet, so that when we add our rub, it'll stick well, and then when we start cooking it, it'll kind of get a bit of a crust and hold together, and that'll help it stand up better in the soup as well. Perfect. Okay. That's about as dry as I think we're going to get it. Here you can see I've got my shrimp all peeled, and I showed you how to do that in an earlier video. This is nice and dry now. And we're going to take our paste. And now notice, because it was part of the base for that was that coconut oil, once it starts to sit and cool down, goes back to a room temperature. So even though it was very liquidy when we made it, now it's turned into quite a solid paste, and that's because that oil has become solid again. This is going to make it really easy for us to rub this on without using too much, right? It's also part of the reason why we did add so much moisture to that paste and why it appeared so wet early on. It's because I knew that once it cooled off, it would be kind of the right consistency for us. All right, move these out of the way. Okay, and we're just gonna, I don't want to leave huge chunks of this on. Really what I want to do is rub it right in to the flesh. I want that color everywhere. There. Beautiful. But we don't want to use too much. We don't want to be wasteful, because some of this we still need for our shrimp, obviously, and then some of it we'll use for the base of our soup as well, for frying our veggies. Okay. We want to be sure that we do this in such a way that we're not, mangling the fish or ripping it apart. So we're kind of going with the grain. See, I don't want to rip that all apart there. Beautiful. Get the sides. Excellent. All the little edges and tips. Awesome. A little bit more on that first side, I think. Perfect. All right, so that's our fish ready to go. And then for our shrimp, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to take a bit of the paste and we're going to just gently massage it in the bowl with our shrimps without mushing them too much. And we're going to cook the fish first, and the shrimp we're going to cook second, because we really don't want to cook it long at all. And then we're only going to add this to our stew right near the end when we get ready to serve. Otherwise, this shrimp's going to become all rubbery and hard, right? So we can kind of cook it ahead of time, just for a short amount of time, and then right when our stew's getting close to finished, and I'll kind of fast forward in 45 minutes or so to show you when that point is. That's when we'll add our shrimp. Fish we'll put in much earlier and kind of let it cook in and deliver some of its flavor to the broth. Awesome. So our paste on the shrimp and on the fish, and still lots left over to saute our vegetables in. And I think we're ready to move to the stove. Okay, stove on, or pan on the stove. Got it over medium heat. And we're going to start with the rest of our curry paste. And of course this is full of oil as well, so we don't need to add any additional oil to the pan. And we'll drop some of our carrots. Oops. Beautiful. And our lemongrass as well into the pan. And then we'll just kind of put it on medium-low. And we're just going to cook that paste off a little bit with these ingredients. Some of our celery. And our mushrooms. The rest of these I kind of want to wait till later to put in. Okay, so that paste is starting to stick to the bottom, but it's not burning, it's not turning black yet. And before it does, or if it looks like it's getting to that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the container that had our paste in it, add a little bit of water, I've actually already done this, and we'll just add that in to kind of moisture it up. Put in our mango. And so here's the container that had our curry paste in it. I just added a bit of water to make sure we get the last little bit of that up. There we go. And from here on out, I want to kind of keep cooking with as little moisture in here as possible. I want to kind of, you know, shrivel them up a little bit, but there we go. Turn it up a bit. Don't want to just add in all the stock and start bubbling it and call it a day. I do want to kind of cook off some of the spices with a relatively dry heat still. And just enough that it doesn't stick. So yeah, that little bit of water that I added to the pan is proving to be just enough, because now the moisture is starting to release from that mango and from the carrots and the mushrooms a little bit. And so that's going to provide all the moisture we need now to prevent it from sticking. And we're just going to, because the mango and the carrots and the celery and the mushrooms require a bit more time than our other vegetables, we'll let these go a little longer on their own. And then just as we start to run out of moisture coming naturally from the vegetables that we have in here, that's when we'll add the rest of some of our veg, not all of it, and some of my homemade stock. And then we'll move over to frying our fish. Okay, so we've been just cooking for just straight on medium heat for about, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes. You can see we're starting to run out of moisture here that's come out of the mushrooms and the mango. And so at this point I'm going to jazz it up, throw out our cucumber, our few cucumber slices. Some of these are nice and chunky, that's kind of fun. And they'll release a little bit of their moisture. There we go. And I don't want to put the red peppers or the green onion in yet. If we put in the green onion now, I think a lot of its delicate flavor will get lost. So I want to kind of add that right at the end, just like the shrimp. And the red pepper, I'm going to wait maybe closer to when we add the fish in, so that it has a chance to soften a little bit, but still stay just the faintest bit crisp. I think timing's everything with that. I don't just want a bunch of mushy red pepper pieces. I want them to still have a little bit of crispness to that. And so the order and timing of adding these in. And this is going to have to cook for a good long while to extract a lot of that flavor from the lemongrass. So let's go ahead and add in our stock now, and then we can kind of let it simmer for about 20 minutes, I think, before we revisit. So I'll grab my stock. So here's my stock here. It's just a vegetable stock with a bit of like fire roasted chicken wing tips and onion in it, and that's where it gets that kind of dark color from. But it's actually quite a mild stock. It's not overpowering. There we go. So we're going to add in enough to just cover the vegetables that we have in there now. And then we're going to kind of move this to medium-low heat. There we go. And we're just going to let it simmer for about 20 minutes. All right, here we are. I've got my fish back here. Over here you can see we have, we've brought our veg to a simmer. And I've got it turned down to low heat, just enough to keep it just ever so slightly bubbling away. And here I've got just like a teaspoon of coconut oil in a pan over medium heat. And we're going to take our fish and lie it down in the pan. Just kind of run it over the oil. Make sure there's some oil underneath it. You can see actually I lost a bit of my rub there. A little bit of the paste stuck to the plate. Probably not the end of the world. And we're just going to give this a couple minutes aside on medium heat. While we're waiting, I thought actually I could try some of the broth now that it's been cooking with the veg and the mango and the lemongrass. Oh, lovely. Flavors are starting to come through. I think I want to leave the lemongrass in a little longer. I want a bit more of the flavor. And it's got a hint of sourness, but it could still probably use a little bit of lime juice, but that'll have to come right at the end. But it's heading kind of in the direction I want. It's a little salty, it's a little faintly sour, and it's got a lot of range and depth of flavor. So all across the board, good signs there. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes, I think. I'm starting to see just a little bit of cookedness around the edges there. So I'm going to kind of gently pick this guy up and turn him over. Very nice. A little bit of color. It's firm. It's not going to fall apart on me. It's exactly what I want. This pan seems like it's getting a little bit dry though, so I'm actually going to add a little bit more coconut oil to this pan. Just a bit. There we go. Just dropped a little bit more oil in the pan. And we're going to make sure that that gets on the underside of our fish a little bit. Beautiful. And we'll just let them cook right on that side there. That looks nice. Give it another couple of minutes. Okay, gonna have another look at our fish here. It's been snap, crackling, popping. Oh yeah, look at that. It's got a really nice and firm. Awesome. I think this is ready. So we'll pull this guy out, and I'm actually going to clean up the pan and use some fresh oil to do our shrimp. Just going to scoop this guy up from underneath. Try not to break him. And onto our plate. And we'll clean up this pan. Okay, so I've got about a tablespoon coconut oil in the pan now. Don't want to run out like last time. Medium heat, and this is all going to happen really fast because these shrimps are not going to take long to cook. But we're going to take our other red chili here because I just want to give our shrimp some extra heat. So we're going to let that roll around in that hot oil for a second. And I've got about 1/8 of a lime wedge handy, and we're going to do a bit of salt too, so we'll kind of toss them up real quick and all that. See our pepper bouncing around there in that hot oil. And when this all happens, it's going to happen pretty quick. Okay. Just going to use my spoon to make sure they're not stuck together. Just grabbing it one hand. I'm just going to toss them. Give it like 10 seconds on this side now. A little bit of that lime. little pinch of salt. Back up. Oh, that smell of that extra lime that we added. I almost want to give it another little squeeze. Beautiful. Just a hint more lime juice. And that's going to soak right into those guys. Beautiful. And that's it, I'm done. I don't want to cook that anymore. Probably even that was more than necessary. But it's not going to be rubbery. I think we cooked it just enough that those are going to be super tender and perfect when they're put in the soup right before serving. I've decided how I want to plate this actually, which is that I'm going to have a little dome of rice, and then we'll take the fish, and it's kind of got two obvious sized pieces here. This looks like a me piece, and this looks like a Rachel piece. And I'll lay the fish across the rice, and then pour the stew over top with the shrimp in it, or something like that. It's going to look something like that. Either way, I want rice. So I've got 1 part rice here to 1.5 parts water, and on these ceramic glass cooktops, easiest thing in the world, just make sure you have your water to rice ratio correct. Get it onto max heat. As soon as it starts to boil, just stir once, put the lid on, and turn it off. And 10 to 12 minutes later, you'll have perfect rice, because the cooktop's going to retain enough heat that it'll keep cooking even after you turn it off. Whereas with a gas stove, you'd have to turn it to low and kind of keep that heat on it as it was finishing cook. So it's actually a lot easier to do rice on a ceramic or on one of those coil electric cooktops than it is on a gas stove. Super foolproof. Just bring it to a boil, stir once, put the lid on, turn off the heat, leave it alone. 10 minutes later, boom, rice. And that works with basmati, jasmine, any number of different kinds. Here we go. Stir once, lid on, stove off, done. I'll have rice in probably 8, 9 minutes. That was a very small amount of rice, so it's going to cook really fast. Getting back to our stew, I think we're ready to add some of the rest of our veg, and we're almost ready to take out our lemongrass. So, first thing we'll add is some spinach. This is fresh spinach from my garden. It's already been washed and rinsed and squeezed, and we're just going to put this in and kind of just let it cook and melt right into the stew. And then we'll add our peppers, and then we're getting really close to done. All right, spinach is cooked right in there. So I'm just going to make a little hole in the middle of our stew, and I'm going to pick up our fish, and just lay it right down in there to finish cooking all the way through. And we'll add our peppers on top. And our green onion. And this only needs to cook for, I don't know, maybe 5-10 more minutes. We'll give it a little hit of that acid now that it wanted. It wanted a bit more lime. Beautiful. Rice will be done in about 4 minutes. So we're getting real close here. All right, our rice is almost done. I'm going to reach in and recover our 2 pieces of fish here, just for plating purposes. Kind of got an idea how I want to lay them out. I think a little bit of escape, that's probably for the best. Beautiful. Now, the last touch here, right after we fish out, right after we fish out our lemongrass, is we're going to add a little bit of coconut milk. And that's going to do 2 things. One thing is it's going to thicken it up just ever so slightly. and give it a really nice creamy texture. Oh, there's one. It's okay if a few of these stay in there. People will, I mean, even if they try to eat them, they'll find out pretty quick that you can't chew through them. So they're just like a bay leaf left in the soup, sort of, is how you can think of them. Not a big deal, but we're going to get them out. Okay. So everything's in here now except the final little garnish of cilantro. And so we're just going to whisk in a little bit of coconut milk just for some texture and a little bit of creaminess. There. And we're going to let that cook in for about 5 minutes, and then I think I'll add the shrimp and we're ready to plate. Rice should be ready now, so I'm just going to turn off the video and I'll start getting ready to plate this thing. All right, it's moment of truth time. Perfect. Got a little bit of rice here. We're just gonna gently, now this is nice because it's not crunchy, but it's not overcooked either. It's not too sticky, but I think it'll hold up in a mold if I just give it the lightest press without sticking to it. It's really quite fluffy. All right. So we'll just give it the lightest little press in our mold there. Perfect. Our rice is going to sit there nice and gently. And then we have our fish on top. Pick up a nice selection here of vegetables and shrimp to put around the outside. Gorgeous. A carrot over there. Another carrot over there. Yeah, that one. All right, and then our beautiful stock. Just pour gently over our fish down so it soaks into the rice. Just until we start to see it come up around the edges there, yeah. There. Nice and clear. And a little bit of fresh chopped cilantro to garnish. And there you have it. That's my fisherman stew. And I hope you enjoyed watching my video, and maybe this is something that you can give a try at home. Thanks for watching.